Hello, and welcome back to the Modeling Success in Action podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, and today I am joined by Sergey Holson. So, Sergey went from dominating in the pool as a Canadian national champion swimmer to dominating in the sales arena, closing over $2 million in revenue in the past 3 years alone. With a decade of consulting experience, he's mastered both sales systems and operational efficiency, helping hundreds of business owners scale and reclaim their time. He's as relentless in business as he is in training. And that's saying something. He trains like a savage because winning is the only scoreboard he plays for. Welcome, Sergey. It's so great to have you on the show.
What's up? There's nothing else there. You got to win. Like it's all about collecting the wins, playing to win. That's all it is. What's up, everybody?
So he is the epitome of outcome oriented, right? When you decide on a goal and you decide what's happening, you just do everything you possibly can to go get it, don't you?
You put it down on paper and then you reverse engineer all the steps that need to happen towards it, right? Thinking about like any of my swimming journeys, any of the existing plans that I have right now for what's happening, even the marathon that I ran in Dubai, right? Like that's the bib right there from it. That's the medal from it there. like it was.
Where am I pointing at?
which one of them was hanging there? But that's ultimately what it is. It's like figure out the goal, figure out what potentially the timeline is towards that, and then let's actually reverse engineer that week by week, day by day, map it all out, and then don't think about it. Just follow what's on paper, and that's the easiest way to actually get it done.
So were you always like this, or did you have to learn this as a young athlete?
I think something within the driver definitely is there. Like I've always had the competitiveness in me. Like I'm even thinking back to when I was like, 6, 7, all the way up to 12 years old when I was living back in Russia. And even back then, anybody within our swim team that we were all together, like we're still kids, but we're trying to compete, whoever can run faster, swim faster, whatever it might be, whatever the best times I had at the moment, I would always try to beat. So there's always like you're looking to increase the mark and get quicker. And I think that just naturally transitioned into everything else in life now as I see it. And I mean, I like it that way. Yeah. I've always looked at it as what's the next scoreboard? What's the next milestone that we can hit?
Yeah. And so you've made it fun this whole time.
Oh no, it's not fun. None of it is fun. No.
You're not enjoying it?
It sucks. Like it sucks brutally. Like even right now, I'm preparing for a competition coming up in October. So we got it like 8 weeks left. And even the last 4 weeks, it was just like, oh, you guys having fun? And I'm like, this isn't fun. Like we're pushing ourselves to the limits during training. But when I get to the finish line, I'll have fun because I've known about all of the work that has come into play and everything that I've done. So it's not about, I don't think it's about fun or like happiness. It's about what's the accomplishment. And what am I going to learn about me and the person that I'm going to have to become to get to that stage at point?
Okay. All right. So
that's what we're after.
Fun is what happens at the end, but along the way, you're just focused on what needs to be done.
There's moments of fun, obviously. Yeah. Right? It's not all cynical.
It's
and
not all a
depressed.
grind.
It's not all depressing. We laugh through the pain. We finish the set. We're passed out on the ground. We laugh through it. But I think ultimately it's really trying to understand what the mission's about. Because even during the training, like it brings me like this thought that occurred, even with some of the friends that I have, even when they wanted to join and kind of like almost support me, they're like, we're not going to do your whole workout, but like we want to come, we want to do some, like there may not be as athletic. And the only two things I said to them, I said, one, you can come and you can attempt whatever you want. That's the first thing. Second rule is though, you can never complain because I have to do it all. And I never want to hear a single word from you because you might not have to, but I have to. So you're welcome to come, make your choice. And because we're adults now, it's like I've set the ground rules. This is how it's going to be played. What's going on?
Yeah. So you're good at setting like the standard and sticking with it for what needs to happen to get
organization and systems around everything. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then how do you maintain discipline at over this motivation? Because motivation, when people think motivation, they're like, I'm having fun, I'm excited, I'm engaged, whatever, right? Like it's like an emotional thing versus a system, right? Which is what discipline is. So how do you keep working on it even when you don't feel like it?
But feelings don't matter. Like winning doesn't care about your feelings. That's the first step. You need to understand that, right? Secondly, it's like, okay, What is winning? Winning is repeatedly getting kicked in the nuts day in and day out, and you waking up and going, okay, I guess I'm stupid enough to continue going, right? The way you overcome, because motivation exists for 5 minutes. Even when you have motivation for the whole week, there's going to be moments throughout the day that you have to do something, whether it's work-wise, fitness-wise, whether it's within your relationship, you need to have a conversation with somebody, right? There's going to be difficulties in that. What keeps us going is understanding what has to be done and what needs to be done. Whether I feel bad, whether I feel great, like this has to be completed in order to move the needle forward. And that's ultimately what it always comes down to. And the only way we do that is, once again, going back to what we said in the beginning, we need to figure out a goal or a specific milestone we're after. Okay, now that we know this. So let's say it's the competition. Okay, we're going to competition October 3rd. Now we have 8 weeks left to prepare for that. In order for us to prepare within those 8 weeks, what needs to happen? We need to have the run sessions, we need to have the training sessions, we need to have the weight sessions, we need to have recovery sessions, because we can't forget about that either. So now we schedule it all into the weeks. For me, it's been, oh God, this is going to be so impromptu.
He's getting his
This
calendar for those of you listening. Yeah, he's got this huge
this
calendar.
is how you keep it all organized. So whoever's seeing it on visual, I have a full year calendar in front of me. For the people who are listening, there's a yearly calendar and there's a weekly calendar that's written in a notepad. And we write out each workout, how many kilometers, how many calls we need to make, how much revenue we need to collect for the business, and things like that. When I wake up in the morning, it just reduces the thinking. Because you wake up and you're like, I don't care how I feel. I don't care what happened yesterday. Tomorrow doesn't even exist anymore. Like, whatever's on the sheet, that needs to get completed. And then you get it done. Some days it might be done before 10. Some days might be done before, midnight.
Right. It's true. It's like, okay, so let's imagine it's one of those days where, it's dragging on and it's, it didn't get done at 10 and it, you're working late. How do you master the mood? How do you keep going? Because you're right. Winning, success, your outcome doesn't care about your mood. It just cares about the actions that you take. So how do you master the mood to be able to take those actions?
You blast a metal band called Rammstein in your headphones, and they sing to you in German the sweet, sweet words of testosterone boosting, and then you feel fantastic afterwards. That's at least my strategy. But
That's
being
awesome.
more serious, I mean, obviously, like, the way you feel and the way your mood changes with the things we do. So what do we actually need to do in order to, like, just move the needle? It needs to be small wins. Sometimes a lot of people that I've seen, they try to go after a big goal and they're like, I want to lose 10 pounds. But then they don't do that in a week's time. It's like, hold on, that's your motivation is always going to disappear. But what have you done in the week? Well, I've improved my diet, or I went to the gym 3 times this week instead of 0 the previous week before. So start collecting the small wins. For me, when I wake up super sluggish and I don't want to do anything, a small win is I made my coffee. Like, it's stupid, but it's like, I had my coffee, I drank it. What else can I do right now? Okay, brush the teeth, got ready for work, put on a dress shirt. Like, you get yourself ready even though you don't want to. At one point, hopefully, and typically it does happen, there's going to be a click. Somewhere through the day, you might actually feel better. But the thing is, because you're stacking on the small wins, it's giving you the confidence that, hey, I'm doing everything that's needed to be done. And that goes behind the belt. Once we get to the bigger wins, then you start remembering those. And then eventually, next thing you know, you're 10, 20, 30 steps ahead of where you initially were in the beginning of the day. That's the win. Don't try to go for the big wins. Go for the small, stupid wins.
Yeah. So you're celebrating along the way to give yourself, some really awesome feedback to go, hey, look, I can do this. I did do that. I did make my coffee. I did brush my teeth. Way to go. I could probably send this email too.
I don't know whether we call it like celebrating, but it's more sort of like just taking things off of like an accomplishment list, because like it needs to get done, but you're not going to hit the big goals today potentially, right? Like, it takes just a lot more mental effort to hit them. So for us to switch on over to that is great for us to think of the small wins that either we can do right now or have done before to elevate ourselves back into the winning mindset. Like, a really good book about this is Psycho-Cybernetics that talks about it. And it talks about any of your previous wins that you've had in life, whether you closed a deal, whether you won a competition, whether you like got a best time. Maybe for some people, it's like, hey, I lost 25 pounds. Like, think back to those moments and really replay the feeling and the ideas that you had in your head when you've just went through that accomplishment, because that will transfer over in your head to today.
Yeah, that's actually a technique that I teach my clients. We anchor those some of those wins or some of those experiences where they were feeling really confident in themselves or really accomplished, and then they reactivate that anchor in those times of need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's awesome that
It's
you're already
it's
doing that for
changing.
yourself.
It's changing the self narrative in your own head, right? Because
Mhm.
I went through lulls of moments after like, breakups or whatever that might have been, or business was not going as well, things, and it's depressing. We live in Vancouver, so it starts to rain middle winter. So you're like, hey, everything collapses and it's gray outside. You wake up, it's dark, it's raining, everything. There was a moment period of my life as well where I had to wake up in the morning and to some extent almost like lie to myself, being like, you're the best, you're the champ, everything's going great, fantastic. And everything was not going great. But within those 10 minutes in the morning of me having to just like sit down, and what I've started doing as well is journaling every single morning just to write out, as you said, the feelings and what's inside my head. Am I pissed? Am I not pissed? Did I sleep well? Everything that I learned or had the conversations with people yesterday, whether clients, whether personal friends, anything, what are some of the takeaways? What have they said that I can like now reflect on? And the journal for me, it's non-judgmental. Like he can't talk back to me. It's not going to judge me. I can be as pitiful or as like lonely, as like brutal to myself as I want to be in here. But then at the same time, it's rewiring of like, here's my reflections. Here's what I did well. Here's where I can do better. And here's how awesome I am. After a period of like, well, for me, it was maybe about 45 days that took. Finally, my mind warped again and I was like, no, 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 we're good. Everything's fantastic. But there was a lull because of just natural life events, which is normal. It's how do
Mhm.
you get yourself out of it?
Yeah, right. Exactly. There are those ups and downs. So, okay, so then how do you deal with the downs? What happens for you when you're, having adversity or even failure? How do you keep yourself going or get yourself back up?
I think it depends on the magnitude of the event that
Yeah.
happened, right? If it's you went to the gym and you didn't have a good workout, like, okay, that sucks. Maybe you wanted to do something better. Or today, something that fell off. Then we have to evaluate and understand, okay, so what could have been better? What should have been better? Can we actually do better tomorrow? Like, is this a very short failure that we can then turn around the next day versus something of like, you had a 3-year relationship and you had a breakup. That's a more magnificent event that will take a longer time. And I don't see it even as a failure necessarily. It's just like it didn't work out. So, okay, so how do we now drag ourselves out of it? And for a lot of people, it can be different situations, depending on the level of the relationship, depending on what happened, depending on why it happened specifically, at which point of the timeline in their life it happened, everything as well. So then we have to start looking into, okay, what's the magnitude of this event, how quickly the next like success or failure can happen again, because you can go to the gym the next day and have a shitty day session again. Okay, let's go to the third day, but then all of a sudden we feel better. Okay, did I sleep better, did I eat better, like I recovered better? So what actually plays into this factor, right? If you lose a client, for example, for business, like, okay, so what happened? I know I'm going to have other conversation with clients going forward, so what can I learn from this one? Are there things that I've done that could be better? So self-reflection is really important in these case scenarios. And then also looking at, okay, are there external factors that I cannot control? And then we just forget about them because they're external. We need to be
Mhm.
aware of them, but there's no point of getting hung up on them.
Yeah. So you can let go of the things that you can't control and then just focus on the things that are within your realm of, change. So you really are, keeping the NLP presupposition close to heart. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. Fantastic. So can you give us an example of maybe where you've actually seen this play out? Like, was there ever a time when you were swimming where you had to, recover or, rebound from,
Swimming.
or even
I
in
mean, there were,
business?
uh, swimming, it comes in different almost. With swimming, it was like you don't do as well as you thought you would at the competition. So then it's like, okay, what happened? And then there, we have to reflect whether it's like, was the training not correct? Was it just I was too fatigued into this? Like, did I wake up on the wrong side of the bed today? Sort of thing. So there's a lot of factors that can go into it. I think with swimming, what definitely helped is because you have this surrounding environment around you that will support you, because you have the coaches, the teammates, all of the nutritionists and physical therapists and everything. So maybe to some extent, it also was easier to recalibrate because you have the supporting network. Once you get into the real world of like business, relationships, and everything like that, then it's more of like you versus you. And I think all of your previous experiences really start playing into it. If you've just entered the field and you have no good milestones, no good successes behind you to give you that confidence, it's going to be harder for sure. People who come from athletic backgrounds or who had successes in other arenas, they can definitely overcome like failures much easier because they're like, it's just part of the game. It's totally normal. For me, the one that probably stands out the most is like a year ago when I had my relationship end, just because we decided to part ways. That's when it just kind of like really took a toll on me because I was like, my life is crumbling in front of me. Like, yes, the job is still the same. Yes, the friends potentially are still the same. But like in terms of the life that I thought I was gonna build is no longer going to be a reality.
And for
Who am
somebody
I?
so
What do
outcome
I need to do?
oriented, right?
Yeah.
You had that goal, the outcome. You had an idea of what it was going to look like. So how do you pivot?
You take the calendar and you scratch out everything that was in it already and you start from fresh.
Yeah.
First looking into you, like for me, the recalibration there was just like, okay, once again, the reflection, like this, like didn't work out. Sure, failure. But where exactly did it not work out? Was there parts of me that I need to learn, become better as? Is there parts of everything that I notice about the relationship dynamic? It's how I'm treating a woman, things like that. Like what needs to be potentially improved, right? It's easy for everybody to be like, oh no, it's her fault. Like, yes, she had her things as well. But I always look at it as extreme ownership. And it's like, okay, even if she had problems, what can I do?
Mhm.
Right? If there's issues, what can be done? And how do we step out of it now?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, as you're describing this, I'm thinking about a lot of people who've been in situations like this and they can get into a lot of self-doubt or blame or judgment and that kind of stuff. So how do you stay secure in yourself and your choices while like giving yourself this feedback and being willing to level about it?
Be, what's the saying? Say what you do and do what you say. So be true to yourself and also do the things that you say you're going to do. That's where you find that congruency. If you say you're going to show up at some place at some point, you need to show up at that point and not stand out at people or stand up on yourself. If you say you're going to tomorrow go to the gym, but you wake up in the morning, you sleep through or you snooze the alarm, like now you're just lying to yourself, right? That's where that confidence comes again. It's like you need to be in congruency with your own word and what you're saying to yourself because now we can trust ourselves again. Once we can trust ourselves again, then we can start figuring out all the next steps from there. It's like, okay, I'm cool with me, I trust me, and I kind of know where I'm wanting to go and what my values are and what everything is. Now I can start expressing this to other people or potentially look into what's needed for me, whether you're ready for the next relationship or not, right?
Mhm.
But at that point, it's you need to find the trust within you again. Because what led to potentially the like breakup of whoever person it is, why did that happen? And typically when those moments happen, you start like almost losing faith in yourself or trust because you're like, holy, I couldn't hold this. Like, what else can I not hold on to?
Exactly. So then you mentioned values. So then what values are you holding on to that kind of keep you in alignment with this?
In alignment of what exactly?
Of, being in trust with yourself, of being able to, see everything that's happening as simply feedback and not necessarily a reflection of, your worthiness or your, whether you're good or bad or should be confident in you, but, just a piece of evidence of what needs to shift.
It goes back to the discipline side of things. And what are some of the things you were doing, whether before the relationship or within the relationship, that are always going to stay congruent to you, right? So for me personally, I know for a fact, whether I'm single, whether I'm not, whatever it is, my athletics are going to be part of my life. I know for a fact that my family and my friends, the very close ones, are always going to be part of my life. Evening time for me to spend on my own in the quiet, put on the headphones, listen to music so I can just kind of like tune the world out, that's always going to be part of my time. Waking up early in the morning and journaling as the first thing in the morning, that's always going to be part of my time, no matter who's really in it. Even with the relationships that I've had before, that always stayed. And it's like, oh no, you can stay in, sleep in. Da, 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 da. The only reason this relationship exists is because of what I'm doing and who I am. And that exists because of everything that I've done before to up to this point. We're not, ship's not changing direction. The captain's here. Passengers, take a seat. We would like your input as to where you'd like to head, but we will direct the course.
Okay. Okay, cool. So is interesting because I love that the conversation has really come around to relationships because, I have a lot of male clients who, from one experience or another through life,
Sure.
they've started to look at relationships like, they're mistrusting of the woman, or they're mistrusting of themselves, or they're worried that, there's all these weird pressures or expectations, or they, when they get into a relationship, they're trying to pretend to be something that they're not. So what advice would you give to other men who want to be able to model some of what you're bringing into these relationships?
I mean, guys, if you're pretending to be somebody else, you should probably go to the mirror and look at it and be like, why am I pretending? That's your first question. Stop pretending.
Yeah.
If you're shit, you're shit. You have to accept that. And the best part is you can work towards greatness. Like there's
Yeah.
steps to be taken, right? I think that's what's the first step is. Because I even, funny enough, had this conversation. I had this realization with just like one of the girls recently I met through like people and friends that we became with. And she was saying that like almost to give the space, like a lot of the guys, because like dates, not dates that she's been going on, she's like, a lot of the guys almost have this like one expectation of like what, like how I should be behaving around them. And this idea of like women should like go with the men's flow and like go into submission and everything there. It's like, and a lot of them, like a lot of the guys will almost like demand it. And it's like, hold on, like, who are you? Why are you demanding things? You don't demand submission. You create the space for it. And the only way you create the space for it is by giving her the opportunity to like relax and not have to think about things and just be within her own environment, being like, when I'm with him, everything's taken care of. I can just chill. And that's where that like ultimately submission comes from. Furthermore, for the guys to like become better, well, there's steps to be taken, like take care of your physical health because that matters. 99% of the people in the population today, you look at them and you're like, you're soft, chubby, you're overweight. If I ask you to run a kilometer, you're probably going to suffer. Like, because I make the joke to my sister, I'm like, you can't like running after the bus. It's like, but why do we need to run? It's like, what do you mean? With like, think back tribal times. You had to do things. If you're not capable, you're dead. So let's now look at today's society then. If what do capabilities mean for a man? Being physically fit, because then you can take care of the whole family and, well, you look better, so you can potentially attract better mates. I have big belief on that. Secondly, then you have your skill sets. Is it the books you read, the career you have, potentially the next career that you might want to switch into? So what are the skill sets that I need to pick up and learn to actually enhance myself? What are the books that I'm potentially reading to broaden my perspectives and horizons on the world of what I'm looking at, right? Because that's what makes you interesting. What are some of your hobbies? What do you do? Like whether you have this person in your life or not, do you do things? Like, do you go skiing? Do you maybe go hang out with the boys and play the pool? Like, do you go swimming? Do you go running on trails? Like, what's cool about you? Do you go climbing mountains in the middle of winter just because? Like, there needs to be something.
Okay, I love it. So it's interesting the kind of the when you were talking about the, creating space for the woman to be able to relax into accepting, that more, feminine, submissive kind
Sure.
of role that's like traditionally like you see that, right? And nowadays women are it's tough and it's tricky. And I'm not trying to get either of us canceled by saying this, but it's
No, no, let's do
so
it.
right. But it's so true though that like when a man can be the frame, when you can be steady and you can, you've got your own shit locked down, right? And you are able to, have ways and outlets to let go of your emotions and, move through them. You listen to music to change your mood. You go and you're physically active. Like you're doing all the things that let you be super regulated so that when you're in a relationship, you can be this frame, you can be this safe kind of container so that your partner is free to be, where she is. Cause it's so interesting because a woman who realizes that you're not a tough frame, that you're actually just this like, really wimpy, flexible thing, and she can just push you around and push you
She's
over.
gonna test it consistently.
And it's not going to last, right? It's not going to be it's not going to be satisfying for either of the partners. So you want to be able to really have her bounce off of you instead of bowl you right over, right?
Yes, bounce off. Yes, if you're strong within yourself, because then
Yeah.
you'll give her the space to be able to like be irrational or erratic or bounce off, because then you can like, well, control that environment at that point. where you say like it might not work out, if she's pushing him and if she's testing him, and if the man is smart enough to realize where his weaknesses or his gaps may be and works in them, that can work and last because he's just now leveled up. If he
Yeah.
doesn't, hypergamy doesn't care. She's gonna move up to the next best suitor who's above you, bro. That just doesn't matter. That's the game to be played. Like we're just looking for the next best thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And the more quality of a woman becomes, whether it's through her skill sets, beauty, and things like that, who is she's a feminine, or more specifically, when women start getting into more like hardcore careers, earning more income, getting better networks, and just raising their own status, it becomes so much harder for them to find like solid dudes because they're like, I'm already this good. And like with just the society we live, this like independence is like I'm making my own money, like I can take care of myself. I don't
yeah.
need a daddy.
Why,
But like
no, they're like, I don't need a son, basically. They're like,
that's the bigger thing. Like
why would I want to be
like
someone's mom?
why am I babysitting somebody, right? And there definitely can be moments within the relationship, especially if it's longer relationships, that either one of the parties may like, let's call it fall down or like turn into like somebody's gonna have to be babied or somebody might have to parent through a specific phase, but it can't be a long duration. Because if you're in that frame, there is zero attraction and you're screwed.
Yeah. And a woman's going to be an exit strategy, right? As soon as she's out of like the romance of it and she's not feeling supported and stable, she's thinking, how do I get out?
Bro,
Right?
she's not yours. It's just your turn. That's what it is.
Oh my gosh.
Somebody might get a chance to play their whole life. Somebody gets to play for a summer. That's how good are
Yeah.
you at the game?
Well, how good are you at mastering your own, skill set, really, right? So, okay, so we're running out of time here. I love where this conversation has gone. I hope that everybody who's been listening along is loving it and not, going, "Oh God, are we allowed to listen to this in 2025?" Yes, it's
On
good,
speakers
right?
only.
Yeah. Listen to it out loud. So
That's it.
before I leave and wrap this up, so I'm just curious, what advice would you give to somebody who is looking like they want to step into your shoes, they want to start to develop this discipline, this same outcome oriented directiveness that you have in life? What's the first step? Like what do they need to do to start being the way that you are in life?
I think the first step is almost to like sit down and ask yourself questions of what do I actually want? Like how do I envision my life being? Like if I could wake up tomorrow, right? Think of it as a video game and just play this video game of life and like who am I? How do I want to portray myself to the world? Because to some extent I had to ask myself those questions as well. Like when I meet people, how do they see me? When I greet people, like how do they receive my introduction or how do I introduce myself specifically? What clothing do I want to be wearing, whether daily, whether weekly, whether for specific events? Like, so once again, it's presentation from it. Then from there, the presentation side of things, like, what do I know? What do I do? Because especially us as men, that's what you're getting evaluated on is what's your purposeness and what do you bring to society and kind of thing. Because utility, that's all it really is. From there, I think definitely diving into books is helpful. Books such as your like Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning, which talks about him getting out of the prison camps through Holocaust and understanding how psychology goes into like going after your goals. I think ultimately thinking about where you want to be when you're like 60 and having a very clear image of that, because once again, you can start working towards that, right? Like I say that very confidently because I think of myself as like a 60-year-old and like how fit I want to be. I'm like, I want to be a fit, jacked grandpa. Like I want my grandkids and even, well, at that point, grandkids, yes, when they're like 10, grandpa, let's do things. I want to smoke them and be like, this is your competition. Like you want to co-compete in high school? That's not going to happen, bud. Like ego, arrogance, sure. But like, that's just the way it is. Like you're going to compete the best in the family. You're going to produce some winners out of from there. Right. I think that's where people need to start is asking, what do I want? And not thinking about what mom thinks or dad thinks or what Susie down the block is going to say. If I think of like, it's you, dude, like write it down on paper. This is what I want. Then from there, ask yourself the questions. Okay, do I want these things because I actually want them? Or do I want these things because, you know, society has put this on me or like the narrative from there. And this is what accomplishment looks like. That's where we begin. Because
Yeah.
once you start understanding who are you and what you truly want, then it goes back to you can be congruent with yourself. I'm going to go to the gym because health is important to me. Anybody else that says otherwise, like you should skip a session, you're like, no, this is one of my values. I read books because I want to become better. I go to my job because I like my job, or there's a next level that I'm working towards to. This is why this is just getting me through till I get to something else. Now, when you meet people, you become interesting. And if we go back to relationships, now when you meet like a potential partner, if we're talking from dudes to female, it's like, well, like, this is my life. Do you want to be part of it or not? Because I'll go searching. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It can really help you make those decisions. I always say this to clients, when we've decided what our outcome is and we are staying focused, like we're filtering all the stuff that takes us off the path out of our awareness. And it helps us to make all those little micro decisions along the way because we're focused on the outcome, right? So you're going to, if you've got an idea of what you want your life to look like, and you meet a woman and she doesn't fit with that, she is the kind of person who is, never going to want to be physically active with you, or she's always going to want you to sleep in with her. Or she demands, Sunday brunch and lazy, PJ days. It's never going to work. Right. And you
which
can
are
start
totally,
to make
which are totally fun and cool to do, just not every single Sunday. That's all it is. Even what you said there, I listened to it. I'm like, I disagree with one point in there. Like when you say like focusing on the outcome and then you can like start adding things to like get us there. I'm like, I don't think it's adding. I think a lot of the times it's subtracting. I need to get to a fitness level. Okay, if I want to get to the fitness level, what do I need to do? Subtract the drinking, subtract going out with friends, subtract the late night snacking, subtract sleeping in the morning, and like go to the gym. So it's like remove a lot of the things most of the time. A lot of people, what I see, they don't need to add more to their plate or add another habit. They need to remove habits. And by removing things, you get left with what's important.
Yeah.
Now just focus on that.
Or it's a replacing, right? Like, so a lot of people go, I don't want to be, watching so much TV anymore. And I'm like, well, what do you want to be doing instead? Do you want to be reading books? Do you want to be out for going for a run? Like, what do you want to be doing instead? Right? Because if you cut something out of your life, you're going to create a little vacuum. Now, what are you going to do with that vacuum? Right? Are you going to go to the gym? Are you going to learn how to cook? Like, what's going to happen? Yeah.
It's you can double up on those. Like you can go to the gym and listen to an audiobook. Now you're winning in both case scenarios. Like that's fine. Right. So that's how I ultimately see everything as so forth there. Right. Once you meet the person, once you establish everything with them, once you could clearly communicate as well, like who you are, what your expectations are. Like I even think back to the very first date that I had with my ex at this point. Like when we met, she's like, what should I know about you? And I was like, I do a lot of weird shit. Like I like to climb mountains when there's still snow up there. I like to go swimming in lakes that are frozen. I like to run marathons just on a whim. Like, what's up? She was like, what? But then the question was like, do you expect me to do this? I'm like, I don't care if you do it or not. You can join whatever you want. You need to let me be the goofball. And that's it. And that's how like it worked out for the duration of the relationship we had. Like there was never a conflict, but that's because it was explained at the very beginning as well.
Right. And that's a real life example of what I'm talking about, of like that being the frame. Like you're so sturdy and confident and secure and like, this is what's happening. So it gives her the freedom to do what she needs to do inside of that. I love it. Okay. So I think I've got to, cut us off here. This has been fantastic. We might have to do a second round of this. So if anybody wants to reach out. Yeah, part two, right? Write in. Tell us what you thought. So if you want to get a hold of him, I'm going to leave all of his details below. So you can follow up. And this was awesome. Thanks for joining me today, Sergey.
Appreciate you having me. This was great.